Do not scroll past this video, because what you're about to hear has been hidden for centuries. There is a forbidden formula Jesus spoke of, not in public sermons, but in parables, symbols, and codes. A divine pattern that unlocks true wealth, not just in your wallet, but in your purpose, your peace, and your legacy. Most people work, pray, and still struggle. But what if that struggle is not because you lack effort? It's because you've never been shown the system heaven uses to release abundance? In this message, we'll uncover the secret principle Jesus concealed from the world. The law that multiplies what's in your hands, even when it seems impossible. You'll understand why some doors never open, why money slips through your fingers, and how faith can turn what you already have into overflow. Stay until the end, because by the time this video finishes, you'll not only know the code, you'll be ready to activate it. And when you do, everything connected to your name, your work, your home, your future can begin to shift. They told you to work harder, to save more, to chase the next opportunity. But none of that fixed the emptiness that keeps returning every time the bills pile up and the plans collapse. What if wealth was never meant to be earned by exhaustion, but by revelation? There is a forbidden formula buried in the words of Jesus. Not a get-rich trick, not a prosperity cliche, but a divine kingdom code that multiplies whatever you place in God's hands. In Luke 16, verse 10, Jesus whispered the principle only the faithful discern. Whoever can be trusted with little can also be trusted with much. Hidden inside that verse is heaven's financial algorithm, a sacred order that turns stewardship into overflow. This isn't about chasing money. It's about activating the spiritual law that makes money chase purpose. As you hear these words, something ancient begins to awaken, a memory your spirit always knew. You were not created to scrape by. You were created to multiply. Tonight, dare to reclaim what religion, fear, and confusion have stolen. Type by activate heaven's formula in the comments and let the kingdom's economy begin its work in you. You've worked hard. You've done everything they said, saved, prayed, sacrificed, tried to stay positive. And yet, somehow, the numbers never add up. The harder you push, the further ahead the finish line seems to move. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of faith. It's a hidden system working against you, draining your effort before it can bear fruit. Why do the bills rise faster than your income? Why does every small breakthrough seem to slip through your fingers? Why does your heart feel heavy every time you check your account, as if something unseen is stealing your peace? This is not about effort. It's about alignment. Heaven's system multiplies, but the world's system drains. One is ruled by faith, the other by fear. And if you've been feeling the exhaustion of endless effort with little return, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been fighting a spiritual equation that was never meant to favor you. In this moment, breathe. You are not crazy, and you are not cursed beyond redemption. What's been invisible will be revealed. There's a code, a divine formula that turns effort into overflow. And tonight, that revelation begins. Listen closely. This is where the mystery begins to unfold. Jesus never gave wealth formulas in plain sight. He encoded them in stories, parables, and symbols. The untrained ear hears fables. The awakened spirit hears formulas. When he spoke of seeds, talents, vineyards, or loaves of bread, he wasn't teaching agriculture. He was revealing divine economics. God never multiplies what is large. He multiplies what is surrendered. In Luke 16 verse 10, Jesus declares, "Whoever is faithful with little will also be faithful with much." The secret wasn't about how much you have, it was about how you handle what you've been given. The world tells you to chase increase. Heaven tells you to activate multiplication. Remember the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish? It wasn't enough in human terms. But in the master's hands, not enough became more than enough. Right now, write this in your notebook like a decree. Small multiply. Because that is the pattern of heaven. God breathes increase not on the size of your possession, but on the faith behind it. What seems insignificant to the world can become a kingdom key when placed in divine order. The question is not, do you have enough? The question is, have you placed your small in His hands? Before money ever appears in your hand, it must first appear in your heart, not as desire, but as remembrance. Deuteronomy 8 verse 18 declares, "It is God who gives you power to get wealth." That means the true source is never your job, your client, or your hustle. It is heaven itself. When you forget the source, money becomes a master. But when you remember the source, money becomes a servant. This is why Jesus never said feel gratitude once, but lived in constant remembrance. Every morning when you open your eyes, whisper, "God is my source." At noon, when the pressure rises, remind yourself again. At night, before you rest, seal your heart in that truth. Remembering is not an emotion. It is a discipline, a spiritual system that keeps your heart aligned with heaven's order. You may organize your budget, but if your heart is disordered, finances will always follow that chaos. Order the heart, and the numbers begin to obey. This is why the true pillar of wealth begins in remembrance. It's not about earning, it's about anchoring. Take a moment now. Write Deuteronomy 8 verse 18 on a small card. Place it inside your wallet or as your phone's lock screen. Every time you see it, let it whisper the invisible law that rules true prosperity. Remember the Lord your God, because the one who remembers never runs out. They multiply. Before heaven entrusts abundance, it measures the heart through the smallest acts, the unnoticed, the ordinary, the things no one applauds. This is the divine audit of character. Many pray for a harvest, yet ignore the single seed in their hand. They dream of owning land, but leave the tiny garden unwatered. The test of little is not about quantity. It's about integrity under quiet pressure. When you are faithful with little, you are silently shouting to heaven, "I can be trusted with more." Imagine the farmer who doesn't just pray for rain. He prepares the soil, sharpens his plow, and plants even when clouds look empty. That's how faith operates in the realm of the small. It does before it sees. Each simple act, paying one overdue bill with honesty, expressing gratitude before the breakthrough, keeping your word when no one is watching, becomes a key that opens unseen doors of increase. God doesn't test your wealth. He tests your stewardship. The little lever you move today shifts the entire structure of tomorrow's blessing. Every choice carries prophetic weight. A clean decision can cancel years of delay. Gratitude can multiply what logic says is too small. Obedience in the dark writes the contract for your light. Mini challenge. This week, write down 3 micro-faithfulness actions. 1 for your finances, 1 for your relationships, and 1 for your inner discipline. Then commit to them with the same seriousness as if millions depended on it. because in the unseen world they do. There are moments when opportunities knock so loudly that they drown out the whisper of wisdom. A sudden offer, a quick gain, a path that promises ease. Yet something deep inside feels unsettled. That feeling is not fear, it's heaven's alarm. The peace of God is not passive, it's a compass. It doesn't shout, but it never lies. When peace withdraws, even the most profitable road becomes a trap. Proverbs 10 verse 22 says, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." Anything that steals your sleep, your joy, or your connection to God was never his blessing. It was a shortcut dressed as opportunity. Before you move, before you sign, before you say yes, run it through the peace filter. Ask yourself, does this keep my peace? Does it protect my integrity? Does it preserve my family and my worship in the light? If even one answer shakes, pause. The enemy loves to offer faster doors that cost what heaven values most. But the peace of God is the ultimate test. What is truly from him will never demand that you lose yourself to gain the world. Your action today. Take one real decision, something pressing, something tempting, and hold it under this filter. If your peace fades when you imagine walking through that door, step back. If it expands, even without all the details, move forward with confidence. God's will always carries peace, not confusion. Let peace be your gatekeeper, and you will never walk into a costly shortcut again. There are doors in the spirit realm that do not open with keys, but with agreements, invisible contracts written by our own words, habits, and unhealed choices. Every time he said, "I'll always struggle," or "money just disappears," a legal document was signed in the unseen. Heaven heard it. Hell claimed it. But here's the truth. No curse can stand when repentance meets revelation. Tonight, we go to war not with swords, but with truth. You will identify every word that partnered with fear, every habit that chained your potential, every compromise that whispered, "Stay small." Then, with the authority of one who knows their identity, you will tear those contracts apart. Repentance is not shame. It's the courtroom act that cancels hell's permission. Now speak aloud where you are. I break agreements with fear and lack. Say it until the air shifts, until your spirit feels lighter. Because when you verbally renounce the lies, you cut the legal cords that gave darkness a right to your finances, your peace, and your purpose. After this, realign your habits with heaven. Speak abundance. Act in integrity. Sow intentionally. For what you close in the spirit must stay closed through obedience. This is the moment where ownership returns to your soul. You are no longer under debt to invisible masters. You are free, and freedom begins with your voice. The kingdom doesn't multiply chaos. It multiplies order. Heaven's blessing flows best through structure. And that's why even your money needs rails to run on. Imagine your finances as 4 sacred jars, each one a chamber of obedience, protection, and purpose. The first jar is needs, where provision meets discipline. It covers your food, shelter, and essentials, reminding you that God is a provider, not a magician. The second jar is debt, the declaration that you are taking back territory once surrendered to interest and worry. Every payment becomes warfare, a prophetic act of freedom. Then comes the emergency jar, your shield against panic. It whispers, "I trust God, but I also walk wisely." It turns crisis into calm because foresight is faith in motion. Finally, the generosity jar, the one that keeps your heart unclogged. When you give, you prove that money doesn't own you, you own it. This jar is where miracles begin. Now here's your action. On your next payday, before a single coin escapes your hands, assign every dollar. Divide it into these 4 jars, whether physical envelopes, sub-accounts, or an app. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. Every unassigned dollar becomes a seed lost to chaos. But every guided one becomes a seed sown in kingdom order. Start today and watch as the flow of heaven begins to align with the structure of your stewardship. There's something powerful that happens when you stop hiding from your debt and drag it out of the shadows into the light. Debt thrives in silence, in unopened envelopes, in the quiet fear that whispers, "I'll deal with it later." But today we change that. You will face it with honor, not shame, because clarity is power. Take a sheet of paper and write every balance, every interest rate, every due date. Don't flinch. Numbers lose their power when they're named. Now decide your weapon. The avalanche crush the highest interest first, or the snowball gain momentum by clearing the smallest balance. Both lead to freedom, but the point is movement. No more paralysis by fear. When you move, heaven moves with you. Then pick one, just one creditor. Make the call. You're not begging. You're negotiating with dignity. Ask for a lower rate, a payment plan, or a pause to breathe. And whatever they say, get it in writing. That document becomes your first victory, your first proof that the chain is breaking. Debt cannot survive in the light of structure and faith. Write it, plan it, speak it, and move today. Freedom begins not with a miracle, but with a moment of courage. There is a rhythm to peace, and it begins when you stop living one bill away from panic. Most people never breathe freely, not because they don't earn, but because every dollar has already been promised to someone else before it even arrives. That is how anxiety becomes a permanent resident in the home. Today, we build a cushion, your first wall of rest. Your first goal is not millions. It's not even a miracle. It's margin. The first $500 or $1,000 sitting quietly in an account not to be touched. That's your shield against the storm. That small reserve changes your entire posture. It means the next emergency won't break you. It means you stop praying for rescue and start planning for rain. From there, stretch toward months of essentials. Rent, food, power, peace. But wealth isn't only built through big moves. It's sculpted by rhythm. Set a 20-minute weekly review. A sacred check-in where you look at what came in, what went out, and what must be aligned again. Then apply the 24-hour rule. Before buying anything non-essential, wait one full day. Let impulse cool and intention speak. You'll be shocked at how much power returns to your hands. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Begin the rhythm now. Set a tiny auto transfer, even if it's just $5 a week, and watch the seed of security take root. Every quiet transfer is a declaration. I no longer live in panic. I live by rhythm, not reaction. There are seasons when God does not multiply your hours. He multiplies your clarity. Many people pray for provision, yet their minds are overcrowded with noise, fear, and scattered plans. But when you step into peace, divine favor begins to locate you. Opportunities don't chase chaos. They follow order. That's why this next shift in your life is not about hustling harder. It's about thinking cleaner. Ask yourself, what could I offer that solves one clear problem, leads to one clear result at one fair price? You don't need a big business plan. You need one pure idea, birthed in stillness. The kind of idea that feels light, not forced. The kind of idea that lets you serve without selling your peace. Jesus never rushed his miracles. He moved in clarity and timing. When your idea flows from that same alignment, provision arrives with peace attached. So tonight, schedule your idea hour. One sacred time where you turn off every distraction, breathe, and write freely. Then send 3 messages. Reach out to 3 people who could be blessed by what you already carry. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Favor moves when you move. Heaven doesn't bless confusion. It blesses clarity in motion. There is a language that opens financial doors, not of the world, but of the kingdom. It is the tongue of faith, the sound of stewardship, the vocabulary of abundance spoken under divine order. Many people pray for wealth while their mouths sabotage their own prayers. They speak poverty over their potential, curse their own hands, and call lack their reality. But heaven moves through words, and the same tongue that built your fears can rebuild your fortune. Every morning, Psalm 68 verse 19 reminds us that God daily loads us with benefits. That means your supply is renewed with the sunrise. But if your lips reject what heaven sends, you delay your daily portion. Begin to replace self-curses. I never have enough. Money always disappears. It's hard for me to prosper. With the language of kingdom stewardship, my hands multiply what God entrusts to me. I am faithful with little. Therefore more is coming. My Father is my source. When you speak like a child of the kingdom, the atmosphere shifts. Fear loses its legal right to drain you. Angels respond to the sound of your agreement. Today, align your confession with your covenant. Don't let your emotions dictate your declarations. Let faith write your vocabulary. Type in the comments with bold conviction, my Father is my source. Because when your words align with heaven, your life follows. There is a moment when heaven begins to trust you with more. And that moment is rarely about earning. It's about releasing. The divine law of wealth was never designed to make you a slave to accumulation, but a steward of circulation. Money was meant to flow through you, not rule over you. The kingdom does not measure generosity by size, but by peace. You give not to prove, but to partner. You set a percentage that preserves your peace, a rhythm that honors God without bringing anxiety. When you give wisely, you shift realms. There are 3 sacred soils where your seed carries multiplied power. The church or ministry that feeds your soul, the person of peace who walks in alignment with heaven's purpose, and the local cause that heals the ground where you live. Each one releases a different kind of blessing: spiritual covering, relational favor, and territorial grace. But discernment is vital. Never give what you borrowed, and never so where transparency is missing. God honors clarity, not compulsion. So today, before the day ends, take a tangible step. Create or refill your generosity jar, a visible altar of trust. Every coin, every note you place, there is a declaration. Money serves me, not rules me. I am part of heaven's circulation system. This act is not about loss. It's about unlocking. Because when your hand opens, heaven's hand responds. Comment below. I unlock my generosity today. There comes a moment in every journey when theory meets life, when what was spoken in faith becomes visible in provision. Let me share with you a real story, one that began with almost nothing. A woman who had only coins left at the end of the week decided to test this kingdom code. She wrote down her debts, blessed them instead of cursing them, and sowed a small seed of obedience. Days later, unexpected peace filled her house. Not long after, a forgotten client reached out with payment in full. The miracle wasn't in the money. It was in the shift of atmosphere around her. This is the pattern of heaven. Little faithfulness pieced provision. Every story of overflow begins with a quiet act of trust. What starts as invisible alignment ends as tangible abundance. The same God who multiplied loaves still multiplies opportunities, peace, and favor today. If this message is stirring something inside you, it's because you're next in line for testimony. Write in the comments one small win from this week, even if it seems insignificant. That tiny breakthrough might be the seed heaven will breathe on next. Before this moment ends, let your heart slow down and breathe. You've heard the teachings, felt the conviction, and seen where heaven's hand has been guiding you all along. Now this is where revelation becomes reality, where the code is not just known, but activated. Place your hand on your chest and declare this not as a wish, but as a covenant. I activate heaven's formula. I choose peace over hurry. This is the divine triad. Remember the source, be faithful in little, move with peace. 3 steps that shift everything. From fear to flow, from chaos to clarity, from surviving to multiplying. When you remember the source, you step out of the illusion of lack. When you are faithful in little, heaven begins to trust you with much. When you move with peace, you break the world's rhythm of anxiety and step into divine timing. You don't need to strive anymore, you only need to align. The formula has never been about chasing blessings. It's about becoming the vessel heaven can trust to carry them. As this video closes, don't let it be the end. Let it be the ignition. Declare it in the comments below as a public act of faith. I activate heaven's formula. Like this message, if it stirred something inside you. Subscribe so you never miss the next revelation, because in the next episode, we will unveil heaven's economy versus Babylon's trap. A war not just for money, but for masters. Your awakening has begun.